Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to make this pizza design, which was designed by me. This design took so long to figure out, but this is it. This is like the final version. I also have this one which I made the other day. It looks a little weird because his face is having some problems, but I think that's because the bands I used were stretched out too much, so nothing wrong with the design, but this is like the final version. Um, so yeah, so I think this is a really cute design. I'm surprised so many people liked it and requested a tutorial for it. This man's having some problems. We're gonna ignore him, but I brought him in anyways. Yeah, so this is actually not a too bad of a design to make. It is made a little differently than we normally would because it obviously is a triangle, so the normal way doesn't work, but it's not too bad. I feel like if I explain okay, you should be okay. Yeah, I think this design would be okay maybe for a beginner. It's not too bad. So band-wise, so the band counts for this guy for the brown or crust color, I guess. It is about 80 bands. And then for the yellow or the cheese, I guess, it is about 72 bands. So in total, it's like 150-ish bands, somewhere around there. So yeah. There's something else I wanted to say. So, but I can't remember now. Yeah, I think that was it. That's all I wanted to say. I guess we should just get into it. Yeah. So we're gonna move these guys out of the way. Also, you can, that's what I was gonna say. You can do different colors for the cheese. So like this one I used pastel yellow, but you could also use white, or if you wanted, you could use like this yellow. What happened with this guy was I did his bottom part correctly, but then when it came to do the, cheese, these are off-brand bands, and I didn't notice, and they were slightly tighter, so I couldn't do it like how I normally would. It was weird, but that's what happened with that man. But yes, pizza design. But yeah, like I said, I think that's it. So of course you're gonna need a hook, a C-clip, and some bands, whatever colors you want to make your pizza. I'll be using the same-ish colors today. I'm gonna be using caramel for the crust, and then pastel yellow for the cheese again, and red for the sauce and stuff. I didn't count the sauce bands in the band count because there's only a few of them, so you really don't need too many. But yes. And you're also gonna want something for eyes if you want to do a face. I glued the mouth on. I always sometimes get questions about that. I'll be using beads today, but I keep getting questions like, if I don't have beads, what do I use? So if you don't have beads, you can wrap a band 4 times around your hook and pull a band through, and it'll work exactly the same as an eye band would. It's actually the same as we make these, but I'll show you that when we get there. Okay, but I think that's it. So I'm gonna get started. You start with your caramel color or whatever color you want for your crust. So let me get that out. And we do start this a little differently. So to start, what we are going to do is we are going to wrap a band. We're just going to cap the band on our hook, like that. And then we're going to pull a band through everything on our hook and put both ends back on. So just like making a single chain, and we're going to do that exact same thing 2 more times. So pull a band through everything on your hook, both ends back on. More time. So we'll have something that's like this. And basically what it should be a cap band and then 3 chained on. And now what we are going to do is we are going to stitch around this thing we just made. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm just picking up some bands, as you can see. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull a band through everything on our hook, put both ends back on, and then push the back one over the front one. And now we are going to go back into the same loop we just did. So you can see it's attached to this one. We're going to go back into that one. We're going to pull a band through just the loop, so not this last loop. Put both ends back on, and then push the back one over the front one, and then we push the loop from last time over as well. And now we're going to move on to the next chain. We'll be putting 2 stitches in this one, so it's the same thing. We pull a band through just the loop we went through, both ends back on, back one over the front one, and then the other loop over from last time. Then we go back in and do that again. Like that. And now that this one has 2 in it, we're going to move on to the next chain. So put 1, and then we go back in. We do another one, so there's 2 in this one. Like that. And then the last, now we're going to put some bands in the cap band, and we put 4 stitches in total in the cap band. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And now we will be just going back that way. So once again, these 2 will have 2 in it, and then the one on, well, they all have 2 in it from now on, like 2 stitches in them. So the next one has 2 stitches in it, so we're going to go into the next chain. And we'll put 2, so 1. We go back and do another one, 2. And I need more bands. I also don't know if my camera's kind of blurry. Is that better? Picking up bands again. Okay. So we do 2 in the next chain. 1. I feel like it's slightly blurry. We go back in. 2. And then we'll just put 2 on this last chain again. So 1 and 2. So after we did that, you should have 16 loops in total. So if you count, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And basically what we did, or how I like to look at it, is on the ends we basically put 4. So there's 4 on this end, and then there's 2 on each side. And then it's 2 on each side over here too, if that makes sense. You can kind of see it if you really look at it. But once you make sure you have 16, all you're going to do is you're going to go, instead of going into one of the chains, you're going to go into this first loop here and just make a stitch. And we'll be putting a C-hook on this one. So now all we're going to be doing this next row is doing 1 row around this thing we just made. I don't know what to call it. So we're just going to do 1 row around, so all we do is we put 1 stitch in every loop until we get back to the C-clip. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So all we're going to do is we're going to go into each loop and make a stitch, and then move on to the next loop. And we keep doing this until we get back to the C-clip. This design actually isn't hard, it's a lot of explaining for me because it's very, like, specific. But it's not too bad. So, just doing 1 row around. Almost there. Need more bands. I feel awkward looming in silence. Almost there. Oh my god, I almost increased on that one. Oh gosh, I increased on the last one. I forgot what I was doing. Why did I increase? That was not on purpose. That was an accident. I'm so dumb. Okay, I fixed it. So once you get to the C-clip, you'll just make a stitch in the band that has a C-clip in it and move the C-clip up onto this band. So after that last row, you should still have 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this next row is a little bit interesting. not too bad, it's just kind of weird. But yeah, just make sure you have 16. So now what we're going to be doing is we are going to attach these two sides together, and the way we do that is we're going to be grabbing the outer band on each side, so like that. But what the bands you're gonna be grabbing is like the outside one of this one, so this band, this half of the band right here, and then the top half. So basically the edges that are towards the outside. So this is what I consider the inside, and then this is the outside. You're gonna grab this one, and you'll make a stitch on them. So like this. So you grab this one, and the inner half is still there, and then this would be the inner half, so we grab the other back half, and then we just make a stitch on this. And we do this until we get to the end. So you grab this back half, and then you grab the back half of the other band, and you make a stitch. And we just keep doing this. All the way until we get to the edge. And I can tell that these two are supposed to be connected, so I'm just gonna connect them. Okay, I'm just checking something. Oh, wait, let me go check something real quick. 2, 3. Okay, yeah. And then that is it. So after we do that, you should have 8 bands across. So if you count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Like that. So now the C-clip doesn't really have much purpose, but I always leave it in, because all we're going to be doing is turning back and forth to make a triangle kind of thing. So all we are going to do is we are going to, so we're facing this way, we're just going to turn our hook, and I usually like to make sure my stitches are going the same way. So this is, since the like horizontal band going this way it's going like this way, I go in through the back side. If you don't care which way your stitches face, this doesn't matter, but I care. But all we're going to do is we're just going to turn our hook, and then we'll just be putting 1 stitch in every loop until we get back to the C-clip, I guess, because the C-clip's on that end. So, yeah. And all I was saying about the stitches facing is, like, not important. It's just I'm really picky about which way my stitches are facing. But honestly, if your stitches are going different ways, I've done it before, it doesn't really matter. Okay. And then once you get to the C-clip, honestly, we can take our C-clip out. Let's take it out because there's no point in it. So let's just take this out. And then we'll make a stitch on this last loop. Like that. That edge bit's kind of sticking out, but it's okay, I think. Let me check something. Okay, I was just checking to make sure I didn't do anything wrong because this edge bit was sticking out a little bit, but it's fine. So now all we are going to be doing this row. So the way I mark the rows is once you make it to the end of like the pizza, that is 1 row. So after the past row, we should still have 8 loops. If you count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I can tell that this is my last loop. It's kind of easy to tell which is the last loop, but this row we are going to be decreasing 1 on the end. So these end 2 bands are going to be a decrease. So we're just going to do single ones until we get to the last 2 loops, and then we'll decrease. So we just make single stitches. Okay, and then I can tell that those are my last, like very last 2 loops. We're going to do a decrease. And if you don't know what a decrease is, all you're going to do is grab the front part of the first loop and the back part of the next loop. But in this case, we don't really have a way to say which is the front and the back. So basically just grab like opposite sides. So we'll consider this the inner, consider that the outer. But honestly, if you say grab the outer one, inner one, it wouldn't matter. So just make sure that they're like across from each other. like that. So after that last row, we should have 7 loops. So if we count, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're just going to turn again, and we're going to go back this way, and we're going to do the same thing where we decrease 1 on the end. So all that means is we're going to stop when we get to the last 2 loops, and we'll do a decrease. So it's the exact same thing as we did last row. So we are just going to do stitches until we get to the last 2 loops. Just normal single stitches. 3. Okay, and I can tell that these 2 are the last 2 loops, so we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to grab the front part of this loop, back part of the next loop, and make a stitch. And after that last row, we should have 6 loops. So if you count, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now we're going to, oops, just bumped my camera. So now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be decreasing the 3rd loop this time. So we have to count. So we are going to turn. So once again, we just turn back this way. And we're going to do the 3rd loop. So this will be 1, 2, and that's the 3rd. So 1, and then 2. I hope I'm not going too fast. I kind of feel like I went really fast. I'll try to slow down. So yeah, that was 1. This one's going to be 2. Oops. And then on the 3rd loop, we're going to do a decrease. So we grab the front part of the first loop. Oops. And back part of the next loop. And make a stitch. And then the rest of the way, we just do single stitches. So 1, 2. So after that last row, we should have 5 loops now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will turn our hook again, and this time we will be decreasing on the 2nd. So this is the 1st. So basically the first thing we do is a decrease. And we're already almost done with the bottom half of the pizza. So if you've kept up this long, it should be okay. But yeah, so we're going to decrease in the 2nd. This is 1, so this would be 2, so this one's a decrease. So we're going to grab the front part of the first loop, and then the back part of the next loop, and we'll just make a stitch. Like that. And then we just do single stitches till the edge, which is very close now. So 1, and then 2. So after that last row, we should have 4 loops. So if you count, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to do 1 row with no decreasing, so we're just going to do 1 row normal, so 1 stitch in every loop until we get to the other side. So 1, 2, and this is the last one. And then if you count, you should still have 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And for this row, we'll be decreasing on the 2nd again, so that means that the first stitch we do is a decrease. So front part of the first loop, back part of the next loop. And then we only have 1 stitch left to do, so we just do a single stitch. And it kind of gets hard to see here, but it's not too bad. So now you should have 3 loops, so it should be 1, 2, 3. And once again, we're going to be doing 1 row normal, so no increasing or anything. No decreasing. We're not even increasing. So we just do 1 row normal, so we just put 1 stitch in every loop. And there's only 2 loops, so this just takes a second. And then once again, you should have 3 at the end of that row, so 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to turn, and we're going to close it. So to close it, all we're going to do is we are going to pick up this one, and it's the last one, so you just pick up the last decrease, and then you pull a band through everything on your hook, put both ends back on, and then push the back one over the front one, and pull tight. And we would just hide this tail, but you're not going to want to put the tail in too much, so that way the end stays pointy. So just gonna go like this. So just go up into your pizza and then pull this down into it. Okay. And then you can kind of squeeze the end and it should make a point. So now we should have a little something that looks a little bit like this. Kind of pulling on it because it was curving for whatever reason. I don't know why it's curving, but it's okay. As you can see right here, that's where we have that band. Just hiding the tail. Well, like that. So that is actually the hardest part of this design. So if you did that, you should be okay for the rest of this because that was like the hardest bit. Okay, but now what we are going to do is the cheese. So we are done with our brown color. That is it. And I don't know why mine is being curvy. I'm just going to pull on the edges so that way it straightens out. So all I did was I just went like this and just pulled on the edges a bit so that way it wouldn't be so clumpy. And if you pinch the edge, it should get more like a point. If it doesn't look like a point, it's because of how you hid your tail. That's all it is. But yes, so we have our crust. So like I said, now what we're going to be doing next is the cheese. So you're going to want to get whatever color you want for your cheese. And I'm going to be using pastel yellow again. I honestly don't know if I went fast with that part or if it was just not that bad. I hope that made sense. I'll have the pattern in the description in case you're confused. But it's not. This is easy now. So all we're going to do now is we're going to stitch around to make where the cheese goes. And the second part of this pattern works for however you stitch your cheese, more or less. So if you're a band off or a band or two off from me, don't worry about it. If you're like 5 bands off from me, I'd worry about it. But if you like say have one extra or one less, it's probably not a big deal. But we're just going to stitch around this. So I usually try to leave space. So like there's the crust. Or I like to try to picture how big I want my crust. So I'm going to start stitching yellow across right here, I think. So I'm just going to stitch one in on the side. And then I'll usually stitch across. And I think... No, I was like, did I make it? Nah, you can still see the little bit of the yellow throw. So I'm just going to stitch across right here. And with stitching into things, you just want to put them as far apart as you feel they should be. It's kind of hard to explain this. But you're just going to want to stitch them about equal distance apart, but you don't want them to be too far apart. Stitching right here. You can kind of see it in the back, but that's okay. Okay. So I just stitched across the top, like that. And you can kind of see it in the back, but it's not a big deal. I don't mind it, but if you did, you could just grab the front part of the band and it'll be fine. So now we just stitch down the sides. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm doing because I don't really have exact spots I stitch in. What I would recommend is like after you make a stitch, wherever the band kind of lands, you want to make your next stitch there. So for me, I finished making the stitch. It lands about right here, so my next stitch will be right here. That's about how I would measure it. So like right here. And you're just going to want to be stitching on the very edge here. So that last row we have. So I can kind of tell that these two are too close together because it's kind of pulling. So you don't want it to make it closer. So just put another one right here. You basically just don't want it to be pulling because for it to keep the triangle shape, it has to be not pulling on anything. That I'll usually make a couple stitches right here just so that way it gets kind of keeps the point. It is really hard to explain what I'm doing, but we're just stitching around the pizza. We're just going on this very edge row. I honestly think as long as you stitch around on this edge row, you should be okay. We are just stitching around. Ah, that's not the right color band. Yellow one snuck in somehow. And I'll tell you how many stitches I had at the end, but this is honestly kind of hard to tell you exactly how many you should have, so we'll see. But I'm almost there. I have about 2 stitches left, I'd say. Okay. So once you get to the other end, I would just go into the next loop and make a stitch. And then we put our C-clip on this one. And we do need a C-clip this time, so get your C-clip. Like that. So it should look like this, and it shouldn't be pulling it so it's tighter is what I was trying to get at. And it should look fine in the back. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I have the exact same amount I had yesterday. I have 21, but if you have 22, or maybe you stitch it around and you like it and you have 19, or maybe you decided you didn't want as much crust, so you made it a little taller, it should be fine. If you're honestly off by, I'd say, like 2 to 3, as long as you're happy with it. This part is really hard to explain, and that's why it took me so long to do this tutorial, was because I was having problems with figuring out how to do this, because there's been a couple times I make it and I get slightly different numbers, so I didn't know what to tell you guys. But basically, you're just going to want to stitch around, and then as long as it's not really pulling on anything, and if your number's a little off from mine, but you're happy with it, you should be okay, because these next couple steps work every time no matter what, if that makes sense. So yeah. So I have 21, but if you have 22 or 23 or 19 or 18, you're probably fine. I would say if you have more, it's probably better if you have less, because if you have less, that means it's probably a little tighter, but who knows, you could have looser bands. So that was kind of the problem I had with this guy, was these bands were very tight, so I had to put them closer together than if I was using Rainbowloom. So it depends, but honestly, it's kind of hard to mess up the cheese, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so we're going to do the next step. So the next step is just to do 1 row around this, so we're just putting 1 single stitch or normal stitch in every loop until we get back to the C-clip. I have a white band on my finger, I see it. I didn't notice when I was picking them up. But yes, we're just doing 1 row normal around this. So that next one's white, so let me just... I have so many bands on my desk right now because I've been looming a lot, so I really need to clean up. But yes, we're just doing 1 row normal around this. Yeah, I hope your pizza's coming out okay. This design, I feel like it's easy, but it's also a little confusing because it's kind of hard to explain. I really hope your pizza's coming out okay. Honestly, I think if you do the crust okay, your pizza will be fine, no matter how you do the cheese. Picking up bands. Oop. But believe it or not, it goes really, really fast after we do this row, because we just start closing it up. I also don't normally stuff my pizzas, so I wouldn't stuff yours because I feel like he'd be extremely puffy. I mean, you could put a tiny layer of stuffing in, but I wouldn't stuff your pizza. Just a random thought, because I always get questions like that with some designs that I don't stuff. It's like, did you stuff it? It's like, no. But yeah, we're just gonna keep going around. Almost there. Also, almost out of yellow bands. I thought I got enough. Probably should have grabbed a couple more. Picking up bands again. Okay, so after that last row, we should still have 21 bands, or however many bands you had the previous row, you should have that exact same number this row. So I'm not going to count because I know I have 21 bands, but you can count if you need. I'm just going to move right on to the next row. So we're just going to move it up. And now for the next row, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be decreasing every other stitch. So this was one normal, so the next one's going to be a decrease. So once again, we'll grab the front part of the first loop and the back part of the next loop and make a stitch on it. And I'll show you that again. So first we do one stitch normal, and then we have a decrease. So you just grab the inner part of the first loop and the outer part of the next loop and make a stitch. And we just keep doing this all the way around, where we do one normal and then a decrease. My fans aren't cooperating. And a decrease. Then one normal. Then we do a decrease. Well, again. We have another decrease. Normal, and a decrease, and I'm almost there. Normal, oop, and a decrease. I'm really almost out of pastel yellow bands over here. I have more in my cases, I just have to go grab them. Do one. Then we move the C-clip up. So after that last row, if you had 21 like me, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you should have 14. Yeah. But if you didn't have 21 like me, your number should be around the same area, like 13, 15, something like that. But it's not a big deal. So this next row, we're going to be decreasing everything. So every single stitch we do is going to be a decrease. So everything's just a decrease. So all we're doing is grabbing the front part of the first loop and the back part of the next loop and making a stitch. And we're doing this for every single stitch. Almost there. And the C-clip for me is on a decrease because we're decreasing everything. Just take it out at this point. But after that row, in case you're curious, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you should have 7. And now we're just decreasing until it's closed. So I need to grab more bands. Okay, I got more yellow. I probably don't need this much, but I just grabbed some. Also, I apologize if the quality of this video is slowly getting worse. It was cloudy today, but I thought it would kind of hold up, like being kind of bright for a bit, but it's getting darker as we speak. So, sorry if the quality of this video is a little worse than usual. But yes, we're just going to be decreasing everything until it's closed. So every single stitch we do is a decrease. I'm almost done. So I think I have to do one more. So once you pick up the last decrease you can possibly do, you're going to pick it up on your hook, and then you're going to pull a band through everything on your hook, put the back one over the front one, and pull tight. And then we just hide the tail inside. So there's usually one way it already, like the tail already kind of wants to go, so I usually just pull it back in that direction. Like that. And it's done. So now all we have to do is put the pepperonis on and the sauce, and this takes 2 seconds and is extremely easy. Yes. Like I said, I don't stuff my pizza, so this is usually it for me. I don't know what would happen, honestly, if you stuffed one, because I just don't stuff him because he's so flat, and I feel like pizza's supposed to be flat, so, like, why would I stuff him? I don't know. I feel like I could have done one stitch like less on the edges here, so that's why I say it's kind of up to you how you want to do your cheese, but he still looks cute, so yeah. I'm just picking up some red bands because we were going to do the sauce. So the sauce is super easy. All we're going to do is we're just going to make stitches across right here, like that's it. So the sauce, I'm going to put it right here. I can see that there's like all these horizontal bands that are kind of lined up where I want to put it. So we are going to put the sauce right here. And we're just going to stitch all the way across. Oops. I'm almost there. So I just stitch across until I get to the other end. This is kind of like the crust where I don't really have an exact amount I do. I just do it. But when I get to this one, it's like would be where I would make the last stitch. I usually just go through it like this. And then I get my crust color. And I just pull it through everything on my hook. Pull tight. There we go. He has sauce. And then we just hide the tail. I usually will go up into the crust and pull the tail into here. Like that. So there we go. So now all we have to do is we have to put the pepperonis on, I guess. I mean, you could leave them like this and make them a cheese pizza. Actually, that would probably be really cute if you say use like dark yellow, light yellow, and did like different colors to make it look, I don't know. I'm just having thoughts. But we're going to make the pepperoni. So like I said, if you don't have eye bands, you can do it like this to make eyes if you want eyes. But honestly, this design looks cute without eyes. So we're going to get a red band. Oops, went blurry on me. We're going to wrap it 4 times around our hook. But sometimes I like them a little tighter, so I'll wrap them 5. But if you're doing an eye, you're going to want to only wrap it 4 times. But I like them to be a little tighter, so I'm going to wrap them 5 times. And then I just pull the band through. And that is it. And then we just tie this into him wherever we feel like he needs pepperoni. I forgot what I was going to say, and I just went, yeah. We pull tight, like that. And we just make a bunch of these and pull them in. Or however many you want. I usually do about 4 or 5. Like this guy had 5. So I usually just wrap it around 4 times and then grab one of the loops and wrap around one more to make it 5. And then pull a band through. And then we just tie it in again. And I usually just put them wherever I feel like. I really don't have exact spots for the pepperonis at all. So just wherever I feel like they should be. And then I'll just hide the tails. So 4 times and then one more, so it's 5 times. We'll pull a band through. Tie it in. Okay, I kind of leave a space blank in the middle because I am making my guy have a face. But if your guy wasn't having a face, you would probably want to put some in the middle. But I'm going to leave it like this and I'm going to put the eyes on. So all I do to put the eyes is I usually want my face to be, like I said, in the middle. So I'll get my band that has an eye on it. And like I said, you can make them like the pepperonis, but in black for the eyes. I'm going to go, I want to say right here, but we will see how this goes. Is right here a good spot? Yeah. We'll just tie it in. Like that. Okay, so he has one eye. Then we hide our tail. And then we'll just tie the other eye across from this. So I'm going to go right here. And then pull tight. Don't tell me this band's doing the weird thing. I keep having a problem that they do this weird thing where they want to be sideways. I don't know. See, that's what happened to this guy. No, not you. This man. That his eyes kind of want to turn inwards. And I don't know why that happens. I think it's just has to do with the band you tie it on or the band you're using. But usually you can pull it, so it's fine. There we go. And like I said, you can stuff it because you can kind of see that there's a couple holes in him. Well, not really holes, but like you can see the crust. So I'm pretty sure if you put like a tiny bit of stuffing in, you wouldn't be able to tell as much, but I really don't mind it, so I leave it. And you can see his eye just keeps wanting to turn in. I don't know why. Stop. But I think that is it for this tutorial. Yeah, so I think that is it for this tutorial. I hope your pizza turned out okay, and I hope it wasn't too confusing. This design is definitely a little bit confusing. Should have put the sauce lower here. He's got an awkward crust gap, but I hope your pizza turned out okay. And if you make any of these, definitely share them with me. I would love to see how they turn out, mainly, you know. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see more tutorials from me. I have more tutorials coming, believe me. I actually have a new design I'm working on right now that was kind of cute. Oh, they're watermelons. They're too big right now. As you can tell, they're like huge, so I'm going to work on making them a little smaller, but I think the concept is cute. So yes, I'm working on some watermelons. But yeah, like I said, subscribe if you want to see more things from me. I hope your pizza turns out okay. And yeah, I think that's it, so bye.